Code-first design is a great feature of Entity Framework that lets you create the domain model for your application by building plain old CLR objects, or POCOs, with no Entity Framework code whatsoever and without using any base classes. Then, through some clever features, you can create a context class that almost magically turns the objects into fully functional entity data objects. Even more amazingly, you don't have to worry about creating the database at all, assuming that you can live with the default conventions that you'll learn about in this course. Entity Framework will then create the database for you automatically when you first run the application. And Code First has only gotten better in more recent versions of Entity Framework, so much so that it will be the basis for the primary development strategy in future versions of Entity Framework. So it's something you definitely want to get to know. This course will start by covering how Code First works by default, which will probably work for most applications early in their development cycle. But when you're ready to deploy the application to a production server, or need more flexibility in how Entity Framework creates a database, you can take advantage of data annotations on the model classes, or use a Fluent API to take control of the process. And even if you have an existing database that the application is going to use, you can still use Code First design and map the POCOs to the existing tables and fields. You'll see how to create a Code First model and create a database from it, and see an application that makes use of it to maintain data in the database. You'll also see what happens when you change the model and run the application against an already existing database, as well as see the database with data whenever it has to be recreated. You'll also learn how to customize the database using both data annotations and the DBModelBuilder API, which lets you write code instead of using data annotations. You can combine these techniques for even more flexible applications. Code migrations is a newer feature of Code First that goes beyond just deleting and recreating the database when the model changes. By updating the database instead, any data and other database objects are preserved even as the database schema changes. Migrations makes Code First a far more usable feature for far longer in the application development lifecycle.